Now, a third night of unrest on the streets of Lebanon. Crowds on the streets are angry over the ever-worsening economic crisis and the government's handling of it. Lockdown measures are in place to curtail COVID-19, but demonstrators say things are so bad economically they have to make their demands clear. The currency in Lebanon has lost over half its value since October, and as our correspondent Leila Molana-Allen tells us, people are also being locked out of their savings accounts.
It's a combination of factors that are the problem. One of them is this issue of the dollar-lira peg. Now, the Lebanese lira has been pegged to the US dollar at 1,500 to the dollar for 22 years. That's been artificially pegged there by the central bank to try and maintain really an unrealistic value for the lira. And that started to slip about September last year, but quite slowly. And the central bank kept saying, it's okay, we'll be able to get it back. Now, at the beginning of this year, that was up to about 2,100. It's gone into free fall over the last 2 weeks. It's now hovering at around 4,100, 4,200, which is an incredible drop. And the problem is that the central bank still insists that that's not the case. There are multiple exchange rates in different places across the country, and within banks, it's still being held in most banks at 1,500. What that means is that people who usually put their savings in dollars have lost a huge amount of their savings because that artificial rate is being held, even though the realistic rate on the street is completely different. They're just watching their savings dwindle. At the same time, Lebanon also imports a lot of goods. So now prices have doubled because, of course, to be able to buy things in dollars, they have to pay so much more in lira. At the same time as that, the banks, since the beginning of this crisis in September, have been implementing capital controls. That means stopping people taking as much money as they like out of their bank accounts to try and stop a run on the banks when the banks run out of money. So people have not only lost their jobs, first in the economic crisis and now even more in this COVID crisis, but they also can't access their savings because the banks won't let them, and they're watching their savings dwindle as this dollar rate drops and drops and drops. So people are furious, and that's why we're seeing these bank burnings. They really see the banks as complicit with the government in not helping them.
Meanwhile, the French